Arise, your light is come, the Spirit's call obey. Show forth the glory of your God, which shines on you today. Arise, your light is come, King wide the prison door. Proclaim the captives liberty, good tidings to the poor. Arise, your light is come, all you in sorrow born. Bind up the broken-hearted ones, and comfort those who mourn. Arise, your light is come, the mountains burst in song. Rise up like eagles on the wing, God's power will make us strong.
The sacred reading is from 1 Corinthians 13. If I speak in the tongues of men and women and of angels but have not love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains but have not love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and surrender my body to the flames but have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It is not rude, it is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part and we prophesy in part. But when perfection comes, the imperfect disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became an adult, I put childish ways behind me. Now we see but a poor reflection as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part. Then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. Hear what the Spirit says today.
Thanks be to God. Amen.
It's wonderful to be home. I think once you're a member of MCC Los Angeles, it is always home, wherever you are. And I was pastor for nearly 15 years. I remember when I first became pastor, Larry Rodriguez made me promise that I would be pastor at least 10 years. And so I felt wonderful to be able to meet my promise to him, an obligation. And, I think in Reverend Neil, you have someone who could certainly surpass my record if you're good to him. And that I know he is beloved, and I know that he has brought you through some great and wonderful things. And change is good. Change is hard sometimes, but change is good. It's a wonderful thing. If we don't change, we die. And so I'm so grateful to be home. I preached over there, and I've preached over there. And so this is my first time to preach over here. And speaking of my name, it's very interesting. Since I was 13 years old, when the jazz singer Nancy Wilson first came out with her first album, probably several times a week in my life. There's an interesting reference. And about 10 years ago, I was visiting someone in a hospital, and a woman next door, her mother was getting ready to have surgery. They were African American, and she said, "Will you pray with my mother?" And I said, "Sure." And I went over to pray with her, and she said, "Honey, what's your name?" And I thought, okay. I said, "My name is Nancy Wilson." And she laughed, and she said, "That's okay, my name's Betty Ford." And, she said, "And my husband's name is Henry." So we had a lovely moment. I also want to invite you, make a special invitation. It's my joy as moderator. This is the first time I can do this, to make a special invitation to you all to come to General Conference this summer, July 2nd through 6th in Scottsdale, Arizona, an amazing, beautiful facility that we will have all to ourselves. And there's something going to go on there called the Dive-In Movie, which is there are these gorgeous pools in this facility, and they're going to show the sound of music in the evening after worship, so people can swim and be there to the sound of music. The Dive-In Movie, it's called. It's just a beautiful place. And there will be wonderful opportunities for worship, of course, just the most extraordinary thing to worship with thousands of brothers and sisters from all over the world in MCC. Amazing workshops and terrific times of training and fellowship, and it is an experience not to be missed. And this is maybe the closest it is to you in quite some time. And the next one won't be for 3 years. We're moving to our 3-year cycle. So this summer, please, it's such an important thing. Look for the website, the MCC website, and you can register now, and it'll be a wonderful experience. So thank you again to Pastor Neil, to your board, for your gracious invitation today. Will you pray with me? God, I thank you. As I look around the room, I see people who I shared ministry in this church with for a long time, people who gave of themselves so much, and it's wonderful, God, to see people here and working and continuing to serve. And I thank you for the new people who are here and the people who are just finding MCC, and for the people who will change it forever by coming and being a part. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, God, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. When my goddaughter Rochelle was 4 years old, her favorite song was Tina Turner's What's Love Got to Do With It? And it was just amazing to see a 4-year-old who could just perfectly mimic Tina Turner. This kind of sad, kind of cynical lyrics in this song. I don't think she really knew anything about what those lyrics meant, but she had the look and feel of it. It's a song of looking for love in all the wrong places, of disappointment in love, and a kind of cynicism. And I think about that when I think of the church and how many people have been so profoundly disappointed in the church of Jesus Christ. Why is it that the church of Jesus is often the last place people expect to experience unconditional love? It is the scandal of the church in our age. I believe it breaks God's heart because the gospel in its core, in its centrality, is about love. And not love as sentimentality, but love as that core commitment to the well-being of the other. Jesus talked about that in the greatest commandment, to love God and to love one's neighbor as oneself. Jesus said, insofar as you love the least of these, you are loving me. It is the life-changing, redemptive power of love that we sing about this morning and that we celebrate as the heart and core of the gospel. Indeed, in the letters of John, it says the very nature of God is love. I remember preaching here many years ago, if it's not love, it's not God. And I think that is absolutely, God made a commitment to say God's very nature and name is love. In the mid-1980s, I had one of those amazing MCC experiences. I preached at MCC Dallas, and that day the KKK had decided to picket. And the people from the KKK saw themselves doing this cloaked in Christian righteousness. And they were going to picket MCC Dallas. And they could only wear their hoods and robes. They had to be 3 blocks away. So they took off their hoods and robes, put them over their arm, and they came to church, attended church. And we had plainclothes police, and we had uniformed police, and there were people. And I remember seeing the usher from MCC Dallas when the 3 people from the Klan came up and said, "Welcome to MCC Dallas." And they took a bulletin and sat in the back row. And I was preaching that day, and it was the most amazing thing because the lectionary reading for that day, which we didn't pick, God picked it, it was in the lectionary, and it says, if you say you love God, but you hate your brother and sister, you are a liar. Woo! That could preach, I'll tell you. And but I remember there was an electricity in the air, of course, but the other thing is, I watched God's perfect love cast out fear that day. People who had been terrified and afraid saw these 3 rather sad people, who had no power at all, who did not have the power to destroy or to speak for God, and whose hatred was just shrank in that room. And there was power and strength, and there was the love of God in